All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64. I made a whole video yesterday and no audio, so I couldn't publish it. Figured out the problem. I forgot to turn on the Bluetooth, so I basically talked for an hour and a half for nothing. I am fine. My voice is still hoarse from the anesthesia, and somebody texted her there. So I thought I'd come on here and let you know that we are getting very close. Bring you to the timeline. Go on, Tick. Bring you to the timeline and show you where we are as of today. I got to go through this really quickly because I have to work today. So the surgery was a success. Everything is fine. I'm still in pain, but I don't like taking pain medicines at all. So I just live with the pain, do what I have to do. All right, let me go into the pictures here real quick and go through this. I went through this all yesterday, but I want to re-present it again in a shorter form because I got to get out of here. But remember the former things of old, for I am God. This is now Isaiah 46:9. For there is none else, I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning. Remember that, declaring the end from the beginning. Didn't he say from the very beginning that there'd be 6 days of creation, 6,000 years of mankind, 120 jubilees, jubilee being 50 years, 6,000 years? There have been some amazing people who've done some amazing research to show that we are in the 6,000 year right now. So this cannot go on much longer. I still believe this is the year, and I'm going to show you why. All right, surely, and remember, Amos 3:7. We are seeing, I think Israel's meeting right now. Hamas abstained from the meeting, but they said that they're going to be there afterwards. I think this is the trigger point. Remember, we're not looking for a war. We are looking for peace and safety. We're looking for somebody to say, "That's it, we're done. It's peace. We're at peace and safety now. Everything's fine." So we're going to see this coming, all of us, not just one of us to tell all of us, but all of us that are watching and dreaming of this day are going to be seeing the day approaching more and more every day. So Luke 1. 3. It seemed God to me also, having had perfect understanding of all things from the very first, to write unto thee in order, most excellent Theophilus, that thou mightest know the certainty of those things wherein thou hast been instructed. So Luke is knows the order of all things. Remember, Luke wrote the book of Acts, and we see that mostly in Luke, it's speaking to the bride. And then in Psalms 90:12, we see, so teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Return, O Lord, how long? Is that not what we're asking? We're all asking, how long? But I would say keep your eyes on Israel, and I think the answer will be revealed here very soon as to how long. And let it repent thee concerning thy servants. Remember Psalms 90:10. We assume that this Psalm is written to the church and the rapture, but it is not. I learned that from uh, Last Days Awakening. Gonna forget his name all of a sudden. I just had it on the tip of my tongue a moment ago. Pastor is a pastor. Yeah, I lost it. I might remember here in a moment. But Last Days Awakening, he had alluded to this, and then I started researching it, and sure enough, Psalms 90:10 is not talking to the bride. We are thinking that because of Psalms 90:10, we've passed the fig tree generation. But what this is talking about is the moment that Israel will have to flee to the Petra, and they will have to do that by the time they're 80. So I'll show you that here. So May 14th, 1948. to May 14th of 2028 is the 80 years. Now they have to flee to Petra 3.5 years prior to that. So Psalms 90:10 is not speaking of the end of uh, Israel's time. As a matter of fact, Israel will be 83 and a half when all of this finishes and transpires. So I should have taken better photos of dates because this even confuses me. By November the 11th, this completes November, this is the beginning of November the 12th, but by November the 11th of 2024, the Antichrist will have to come on the scene, and 3.5 years later, from that date, will bring us to when Israel has to flee. That's the 80 years. It is not the end of the 7 year tribulation. It is speaking to the center of the 7 year tribulation when they flee. When we look at the full passage in Psalms 90:10, it says, "The days of our years are 60 and 10, and if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength and labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away." That fly away that we've always said is a rapture is not. It is them being protected by God, leaving Israel. This is the end of Israel. The end of Israel is when they're 80. This is the end of it right here. So the 80 years again goes to the 3.5 year mark, which is going to happen in 3.5 years from November the 11th. I looked up the word. 5775 means to cover, to hide in obscurity. He's going to hide them and to feed them and take care of them for the last 3.5 years. Israel is done in 3.5 years. If we use just the fig tree generation, and they started in 1948, and exactly 80 years brings us to 2028, and you back up 3.5 years, this is where we're at right now. November the 11th is 3.5 years prior to when they have to flee to Petra. All right. I went ahead and looked up the other verses that the raptured church looks forward to. We all know 1 Thessalonians 4, and we look up the word caught up, and that word in the original language was harpazo and rapturo, and there it is, and it is to catch up, taken by force. This is not the same word that's used in Psalms 90:10. Philip was also caught up. He was caught, but this one is caught away. It is also 726, which means Philip was standing. He meets the eunuch. He sees the eunuch sitting up on a carriage, and he runs up to him because he sees the eunuch is reading something, and he witnesses to the eunuch, says, This guy that you're reading about is Jesus. He died on a cross, and I witnessed him rise. Do you believe that?" And the eunuch said, "Oh yeah, I believe that." He says, "Okay, now that you believe, now that you are saved, let's go down and get baptized." The baptism did not save him. It was simply an outward expression of what was going on in the Ethiopian heart. That's what he was feeling. And that's why you can see almost immediately when somebody is saved, the first thing they want to do, not to prove it to themselves, not to prove it to anyone else, but that is what's going on in their heart. So they will run out and do all kinds of things. There's this other group, the tares. They look almost identical to the wheat that responds that way. They will go out and get baptized and tithe and do wonderful things in order to become saved. It's almost identical. And you can't tell them apart. You're not supposed to. God said, let them grow up together. I will separate them. So we can't even begin to judge who's saved and who isn't. It's not our place. We simply teach. And hopefully, one of those people who's been running around doing all these things hears something like this and says, well, I mean, I thought I was saved because I'm doing all these things. No, you're not saved because you're doing all these things. All you did was what the woman with the issue of blood did. Jesus didn't even know. She snuck up behind. She grabbed a hold of his garment and she was saved. Then Jesus turned around and asked the question, "Who touched me? Who touched me?" And they're like, and the apostles were like, "Huh? What? I mean, there's hundreds of people around. How am I supposed to know that?" But Jesus knew. She reached out and took her salvation. Can you reach out and take your salvation? Why, yes. You take that cup that's offered to you and you drink from it. You do what the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years did. She reached out and grabbed his garment because she knew that salvation was right there in front of her, and all she had to do was reach out and take it. And that's what we do. And that's all you have to do. Did the woman with the 12-year issue of blood run out now that she is saved, get baptized and tithe and do all these wonderful things afterwards? Maybe. And others that saw this action of hers perhaps thought that she was saved now because of all the things she was doing. That is why there will be a great multitude that is left behind, because they are counting on their works. There are no works in this salvation. Nothing. You can't claim anything. All of it was done by Jesus. So Philip was moved as soon as he baptized the eunuch. He was moved. I forget how far it was. He was in Gaza, which in and of itself is amazing as we see what's going on now in Gaza. And Philip was moved up further north into Israel. I forget if it was 50 miles or 300 miles, but he was moved up north in an instant. Now, why do they keep saying that the Revelation 12 sign happened on the 23rd? It happened on the 24th. It's clear. The moon has to be under her feet. It's the 24th. The 24th is the Day of Atonement. The 24th is the day that Jesus finished his 40 days of walking, of fasting and being tempted by Satan. Why did they choose the 23rd? Because they were trying to use the moon to set up Tishri 1, Feast of Trumpets. This event did not happen on Feast of Trumpets. It happened on the Day of Atonement. Everybody, if you go in and Google the Day of Atonement, this is the day the Jews say that they will be rectified to God. It will be done, and that's what's going to happen on this day 7 years from now. Which is why I believe we have to go prior to this date. We have to go prior to September the 24th. Now, if it's true, and this is not my study, this is others, that we are in fact in the year of Jubilee. The year of Jubilee began on September the 25th, on Tishri 10. It goes, this is the days shortened. It's a clue. The day shortened is a clue. The earth's not going to slow down. It never has. It stopped once because God kept it going, which explained the one day, and then the 10 degrees explained 20 minutes, and a lot of things involved to explain why there's 365 days in a year and not 364. The days are shortened each day by 4 minutes. So, and the reason is because the sun spins, but it also goes around the sun, and it needs 4 minutes uh, to turn back exactly in the same position. If we don't do this, 4 minutes a day times 100 days would be, what is that? 400 minutes. We would be off by quite a bit of time, 3 hours. Sunset would happen at, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 9 p.m. I don't know which way to go on that. But sunset would not happen at 6 p.m. So we have no choice, which is why Enoch was 365 years old. He was born on Sivan 6. They say that he ascended on Sivan 6, and I even have it on my timeline because they said that. I said, well, that's their study. Let me put it on here. But the more I think about it, Enoch was not 365. He was 365 and a quarter. Now, from Sivan 6 going forward, those extra 3 months, because remember, there's 3 months every year, and in the fourth year, we had a leap date. We have to keep the sun facing at the exact same spot every single day, otherwise the sun will begin setting at 9 p.m. instead of 6. So what about, we view Enoch, but what about those 3 months? What about that quarter? Well, if you add a quarter or 3 months to Sivan 6, you land on August 20th. August 20th is 5 days from now. That is when Enoch ascended, 3 months after his birthday. So, the Day of Atonement to the Jews is the day that the covenant relationship with God. This is the moment I believe that they're going to find their Antichrist on the Day of Atonement, and then 7 years later, on the Day of Atonement, they're going to recognize that Jesus is actually the one that they pierced, and they will kneel down and cry and honestly. That's the moment God is looking forward to. God loves the Jews. I don't know if that ever made anybody jealous to hear that, but God first loved the Jews. That should not bother you in one bit, because if the Jews had not done what they did, we wouldn't be here now talking about this. We wouldn't stand a chance. But God knew that they would, and God wanted a bride. We are the bride, the Jews are the wife. We did not replace the Jews. This replacement theology that's going on is insane. God loves the Jews. They are his people. All he wants, and this is a moment where you can see the heart of God breaking when the Jews finally kneel down and say, Jesus, you are our God. You are the one that came to save us, and we didn't see it. That is what this is all about. This past 6,000 years, that is what this is all about. For mankind, in its free will, to choose God, and God will show you what it looks like if you don't choose him. That's up to you. We were all destined for hell. All we had to do not to go to hell was to reach out and grab a hold of his garment. That's all we had to do. All we had to do is take that cup and drink from it. But we have free will. He doesn't want a bunch of robots in heaven. He wants people who clearly chose to follow him. The people that go to hell are clearly going to choose not to follow him. It's not going to be an accident. Oh, I didn't really know. I didn't understand it. No, they will make an absolute clear choice to say, Jesus, I don't want you. I don't believe in you. You see them on television every day. I don't want to follow you. I want to go to hell where all the cool people are. Television really paints a beautiful picture of hell, stating that it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So, you know, grab onto that garment from September 24th, the day of the Revelation 12 sign. 2,548 days, the 2,550 inclusive, lands on the Feast of Trumpets. How in the world does that happen? The Feast of Trumpets is on September the 15th. It's always on September the 15th. It never budges. My first video since I was on with him, I think this was Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday I had my surgery. Oh, I hate that. I didn't have any dreams, nothing. I didn't have anything that happened. Like I was hoping, oh, God's going to show me heaven. No, I was out, and then I woke up mumbling. No idea what happened in between. So, uh, but I did a video with him, and we went through the timeline. He's a very good host, uh, asking questions and stuff. I had some audio problems as I usually do, but he was very congenial, very nice person, and we went through the timeline and spoke. He was shocked when I said there are no seals open and we are not in tribulation yet. He literally believes that we're 3.5 years into the tribulation, and they have to do this when they don't understand the timeline, and they still are trying to use 1948. They have to give up on the pre-tribulational rapture at that point and start saying, well, you know, I think that we're already 3.5 years into the tribulation. That'll explain the 1948, because I know by the year 2028 this has to be all over. And if you count back 3.5 years, we're in it right now. Well, they're right. But that psalm, again, is talking to the end of Israel. Israel ends at 2028. But the story is not over until Israel is 83 and a half. That's when the story is over. But as far as Israel is concerned, from its beginning in 1948 and its ending in 2028, If you count back 3.5 years, you're going to land on November the 11th, the day Noah left the ark. I read this to him. He's been going, the reason he caught my attention is because he's reading Enoch. And this passage here, I told him, what do you think this passage means? And they all think that it means the equinox. The equinox is the day of equal night. We're not children of the night, we're children of the day. It's the equal lux. On the equinox, there is nowhere on the planet where the day is equalized with the night, let alone in Israel, which is where we're supposed to be looking. The day that is equal will always be March 16th. It moves by seconds every year. The equinox moves by 6 hours every single year. It cannot be counted on. There is the moons all over the place. You can't even begin to use the moon. The only day that never changes, it hasn't since creation, and it will not change throughout the 1,000 years, which is why the days are not going to speed up. He was talking about the days shortened by meaning in a year of Jubilee, the year is held up for 10 days. And it finishes on September the 15th. So September the 25th, it was telling us that this is going to happen in the year of the Jubilee. It's going to happen in the year of the Jubilee. And not my study, other people's study, but apparently this is the year of the Jubilee. It will end on September the 15th, which is why now we say that the Revelation 12 sign completes those 7 years on September the 24th. But I say that we can't be here there. We can't be here on September the 15th because on September the 15th ends the Jubilee and begins a full year, a regular full year. So the next Jubilee is not 50 years from now. The next Jubilee is 7 years from now because Adam was in the garden for a good 7 years. Then he sinned 47 days after he was there for 7 years. Then God removed him 47 days after he sinned. So we have two 47s in 7 years. The marking of the Jubilee is from creation. And the next Jubilee is from when Adam was removed from the garden. So we have two Jubilees running in tandem. Others have found this, not knowing what they were seeing, spoke about it, said, I don't know why, but I'm seeing in the Bible two Jubilees running side by side, almost exactly the same, but I don't understand. That's why. Those 7 years that Adam was in there good, guess what we have at the end of the 6,000 years? We have 7 years of very bad. 6,000 years from creation to the beginning of the very bad, 6,000 years from when Adam sinned to the end of the very bad. That's how it works. 7, 6, and 7. We have 7 years. We have 47 days and 47 days. It's right there in front of us to see it. Jesus alludes to this in John 11:9. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? Why, yes, Jesus. In fact, there are. There are 12 hours in the day on the day that is equalized with the night, where the day and the night become the same. There are 12 hours in the day and 12 hours in the night. It's identical. And this only happens in Jerusalem on March 16th. The next day, Thursday, would be the first day. And that's why if you don't count from Thursday as being the first day of your count, then Jesus will not go to the cross on a Wednesday and rise on a Sunday. God will not have begun creation on September the 11th on a Sunday all the way through a Saturday. It will not work unless you start on March 16th. That's the only way it works. These people here did this. I don't remember. I might have got this off of Aaron. Got a minute? I think that's where I saw this. But it was awesome. 2,000 years from creation, but they don't have the 2,000 years from the fall. Abraham was born. Noah died. I think they were 2 years apart. And you have 500 years, 500 years, 500 years. And then this last 2,000 years, God was silent for these 2,000 years up to Abraham. Well, I mean, Noah was in there, but to Abraham, and then here the last 2,000 years. So again, we land on 2023. This Jubilee began in 2023. When was Jesus? When did Jesus go to the cross? He went to the cross in in 31 AD. However, that Jubilee cycle began in 30 AD. It ran through all of 31 up to September the 15th, ending that Jubilee cycle. Again, September 15th comes up. That Jubilee cycle will end. The next time, unless the days are shortened, no flesh will be saved, will happen 7 years from now. Again, on September the 25th, in the year 2030, the Jubilee will begin. This Jubilee marks the time Adam was removed from the garden, 7 years after creation. It will run through 2031 and end on September the 15th. So let me keep going here. Where are we at right now? This is today. So I wanted to get this video out yesterday. This day, today, is Elul 1, August the 15th. This is the day that Jesus begins his 40-day fast. It is a Chodesh. A Chodesh has nothing to do with the moon. It means it's the first of the month. That's all it means. There are 12 of them. There is another Sabbath that people are not aware of. There are 4 of them. They happen on Elul 31, Sivan 31. Oops, went the wrong way. And the final one happens down here. Kislev 31, and the final one happens down here on Adar 31. These 4 days are kept silent. They are, if they're not there, then the timeline won't work. Those 4 days must be there, or else creation will not have begun here, and there will have only been, instead of 364 days, it will only have been 360. People misread Enoch. They see something in Enoch and then they run. Oh, that's it. Enoch said there's only 360 days. He did say that, but keep reading. He also said that there are 4 kasses, 4 hidden days. There are 4 gates. Each one of those gates is a turn of a season. The season turns on the 31st of each of the 4, 30 days. Elul has 30 days, but then the 31st day is the turning of the season. If it didn't exist, then creation would not have began on Elul 28. God would not have rested on Tishri 3. And trumpets, again, remember, he created time on a Wednesday. So trumpets will always land on a Thursday, not the Gregorian Thursday, just the name Thursday, meaning a day of the week. What is Thursday? Isn't that the 5th day? Trumpets will always land on the 5th day, which is the first day of time. And if you go back 182 days, Rosh Hashanah, Nisan 1, is the first day of the year. It won't land on the Thursday if you don't put in those kasses, those 4 kasses. It has to be 364 days. Now, yes, again, there are 365, but it's because the earth spins 24 hours. Perfect, done, right? But the problem is it moves forward around the sun it's a clock. It moves forward around the sun, and it takes 4 minutes to readjust the earth back to its position so that we can keep time properly, which is why Enoch was 365 and a quarter days old when he was taken. Where's Sivan 6? Enoch, I have Enoch ascends. I need to change it. This is the date Enoch was born, on May 21st. June, July, August. Exactly 3 months later, on August 20th, right down here, Elul 6. Elul 6? Sivan 6. 3 months exactly later, Enoch ascends. Enoch actually ascends on August 20th. That is just 5 days from now. That's something brand new I just discovered while being laid up, resting from the surgery, that I just realized. We say, oh, Enoch's 365, so God is looking. You're right, he is looking at the Gregorian calendar, but we can't forget that quarter day. We seem to forget that quarter day. We can't leave it out. The quarter day is very important. And that brings us to August 20th. So right now, 5 days from now will be that event. Jesus is baptized and starts his 40-day fast. The next event, again, is August 20th, when Enoch ascends. And then day 1 of creation is a Pentecost. Remember, the first Pentecost, there were 120 in the upper room. The second Pentecost is with the Samaritans. 5,000 people were saved on that day. And then on the third one, they were absolutely shocked that even the Gentiles were receiving the Holy Spirit. Each of these events are 50 days apart. Pentecost lands on the first day of creation, on September the 11th. 911, does that ring a bell? Satan's always trying to overrule God's days. That's the first day of creation. It is Pentecost, and it is oil, from what I can tell. I don't know exactly how to place all of the feasts. I think it might actually be wine, honestly, because it takes wine 2 to 3 weeks to ferment. They could have gotten drunk on new wine, and everybody's assigning it to Pentecost. Well, there's a Pentecost coming up on September the 11th in a little bit over 3 weeks from now. So let's keep going. Back here, I already had wine on third Pentecost, but I wasn't sure how to put it because I know that they are harvesting, or they began harvesting wine earlier, back here, I believe around the time Jesus is baptized and Moses and Jesus began their 40-day fast. And then 5 days, Jesus finishes on the Day of Atonement. On the Revelation 12 sign, Jesus finishes his 40 days of being tempted by the devil. And then 5 days later is his birth date. 5 days later, he was born on Tishri 15, which is September the 30th, 933 BC at 9 p.m., 9339 is when I believe it happened. So let's keep going here. Tisha B'Av is over with, but 7 days from now will be August the 17th. That will be a short period of time after Jesus begins his 40-day fast and a few days before Enoch ascends. So it's very interesting that Tu B'Av is coming up. Like I said before, the lake of fire is at the bottom. All of us. You can never say, why did God allow this to happen? He didn't. We did. We asked for this. We've all sinned. Nobody can sit here and say, I don't deserve that. I didn't sin. Well, you might say that, but you're going to learn a lesson that that's not true. All of us are destined for the lake of fire. Jesus is ascending. Just grab a hold of his garment. The woman with the issue of blood was on the ground, and she reached out and grabbed his garment, and power flowed out of Jesus and saved her. Her issue of blood of 12 years was now over. Jesus spun around and said, "Who touched me?" And he finds this woman shaking and scared and saying, "I'm sorry, I did, but I just knew that if I could just reach out." All she did was reach out and seize her salvation. Beautiful thing. And what is she doing? She is working out her salvation in fear and trembling. It is a very good verse to study in all three Gospels to see the differences in the three Gospels. And behold, this is Matthew 9. I wish I would have looked at Luke 8 and Mark 5, but you can to see the differences. There'll be subtle differences in the three because one's speaking to the bride, one's speaking to the Jew, and one's speaking to the tribulation saint. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment, for she said within herself, that I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. She believed, she had faith, and she reached out and she took that cup and she drank it. Can you imagine your groom is standing there with a cup and he's walking up and he's inside wondering, is she going to take this cup and drink it, or is she going to throw it on the ground? And she reaches out and grabs it, spills some of it because she's in such a hurry to grab that cup, and she just downs it because she can't wait to be married to this. And his heart is completely relieved. He is so happy at that point. That's what she did. She reached out and she grabbed that garment. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, "Daughter, be thou of comfort." This reads differently now in Mark and Luke. "Be thou of comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole." And the woman was made whole from that hour, from that moment. That's beautiful. Absolutely perfect salvation verse. This guy sends me a text. I respond to him. You see my reply down there. He doesn't reply back. So I would like to know how you came up with this, because everything you wrote falls perfectly on the timeline and on today. Today is the day Jesus is beginning his temptation, and 3 days from now is what we would call Wednesday, which is a type of Sabbath because it's the day of equal parts. It's the day that ends before we start counting time on a Thursday. The end of Av is the appointed time for David and Jonathan. How does he know that? The meeting in the field is third day of Elul. What I'd like to know is, how do you know that it's off? Because I can't find that unless it's written in another historical book. I'd be curious. The end of Av is the ingathering, the Pentecost from the second Passover. The 14th day feast of second Passover, then adjusted for Exodus 12. Of course, that's uh, the first. Uh, the first law handed down to Moses out of 613 laws. This was the very first one Moses was given, and that is, this now is the head of your year. All three commanded feasts on the same day. That means that trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles all wind up on the same day. We worked on that last year. And all these three commanded feasts on the same day. It is the third day from the unique solstice that had a full moon. He gets into the moon, which I don't look at the full moon sliver of the moon. It's why they said the Revelation 12 sign happened on the 23rd and it was trumpets. But the moon's not quite under her feet, but we're going to go ahead and say that. God's not like that. God is perfect. On the 24th, it is actually atonement. The moon is actually under her feet, and it is actually September the 24th at nightfall, becoming the 25th in Israel. So I'd be curious how you know that. That's very interesting. Um, this was interesting. Again, I don't recall where I got this from. It might have been Aaron again on Rashi. He finds some amazing things. He's actually invited me on to his YouTube to go over the timeline and interview me on the timeline. Yes, Aaron, I would love to do that. That would be fantastic. He's actually the reason why I started with the new timeline, looking, because he said 6 days you shall work and 7 days you rested. I've always tried to apply the Hebrew timeline to a Gregorian calendar, and it never worked. I couldn't get it to function. It didn't look right. So I made the timeline 5, 6 years ago, and we've been operating off of that timeline. But then Aaron said something. 6 days you shall work and 7 days rest. I said, okay, cool. Let's put down 52 weeks of 6 days you work and then seventh day you rest. Let's start the year exactly where I thought it started and go through this whole thing. And wow, the whole thing fell perfectly into place. And I just want to thank Aaron for that. See, iron sharpens iron, and Aaron, I would have never put it in that format. And now I can see, when I put it in that format, absolutely nothing happens on Friday and Tuesday. The day God created man, the day God created the dry ground. Man was meant to walk across on dry ground. It's amazing when I put all of the stuff that I find, dates and timelines and day counts, nothing ever lands on Friday or on Tuesday. Now, again, Friday being the sixth day, Tuesday being the third day, um, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, yeah, the third day and the sixth day, which in and of itself is kind of cool. I hadn't realized that. But Tuesday and Friday, there are no events that I can find in the Bible that ever do anything on a Friday or on a Tuesday. Is that reserved for some reason for the bride? Is it going to be, is the rapture going to happen in a year where Tuesday is actually Friday? Like the Gregorian calendar says it's Friday, but it's actually Tuesday on the Enoch. That would be kind of cool. I'd have to look at that, if that lines up like that or not. On Rosh Hashanah, our forefathers' slavery in Egypt ceased. In Nisan, the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt. And in Tishri, in the future, the Jewish people will be redeemed in the final redemption with the coming Messiah. It is stating that this is going to happen on the Day of Atonement, which is pretty cool. Oh, I'm done. Okay. That was a video I made yesterday, and it didn't upload audio. Hopefully this one does. So, all right. That's everything. Remember, super important, let go of everything. You have no works of any value. If you have to look at somebody else over there and say, I'm doing better than that person, you missed it. You absolutely missed it. You're wrong. All you can do is look at yourself and say, all I want is Jesus, and all I want is that cup, and snatch it. Just take it. Snatch that cup out of his hand and drink it. Spill it everywhere as you're drinking it. Show him that's what you want. Grab his garment, be sneaky about it. Just do it. Just take it, and nothing else. After that, will have a desire to do the. Are you going to continue sinning? You darn right you are. It's not over with that easy. But now the Holy Spirit resides in you. He's going to be nagging at you every single day. He's going to nag at you all the time, and that's beautiful. Uh, uh, and you can ignore him. You can ignore him. It's going to be painful because God will chastise you. Trust me. I know he will. But it's beautiful that he is. It's awesome that he is. These surgeries, I've been cut open so many different times, put to sleep. How many other people out there can say they've never been anesthetized? They have never been given anesthesia. I can't say that. I've been given anesthesia so many times. I got scars all over me. It's insane. Uh, but this is Job, right? This is what God puts us through. We all go through it, and I hear it all the time. I can't wait anymore because this terrible thing has happened and that terrible thing has happened. Trust me, I've got some terrible things going on too. But I know when I look at what's going on in Israel and everything that's happening and the earthquakes, that big one's about to pop off. When all that stuff's going on, I am revitalized. I know that I can get through this. And when I get to heaven and I'm like, oh, Lord, why did you wait one more week? Well, it was your mother. She wouldn't accept me. I was literally waiting for your mom to accept me. We couldn't do this. And that same thing will be said to all of you as to why it didn't happen sooner. Why did you let me go through this? I made you stronger. I gave you character. You now understand what it's like to go through this. You're going to need those skills during the 1,000-year millennium. You're going to need those skills to guide these people to me during the 1,000 years. And God always invites us and involves us in everything he does. And that's a wonderful thing too. So, Repo Man 64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you left me that comment about how you know it was a little one that David was hiding out, I would love to see that. Today is a little one. And we've gone past Tisha B'Av and Tu B'Av. They're gone. The next Pentecost, the day that Acts 10 says, hey, we have Acts 2, 4, and 10. 2 is the 120, 4 is the 5,000, and 10 is the Gentile. And they were absolutely shocked that the Gentiles were even coming to faith. What's this rapture for? It's for the Gentile bride. And we're almost there. It's going to happen any moment. So, go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know. You don't need to tell anybody. And reach out and grab that garment. Take that cup sloppily and down it faster than he can offer it to you. Just take it. Salvation's there, man. It's there. What are you waiting for? Just take it. It's over with. It's done. You'll be saved. After that, you do all kinds of wonderful things. But before that, those wonderful things counted for nothing. Just take that cup, and we'll see you on the other side here very shortly. I actually have another surgery that I have to go to. Oh, when's the rapture going to happen? But keep on coming. Keep on hitting. I'm going to keep standing back up. All right, Repo Man 64. Chat with you later.